On Christmas Eve, I was at my dad's house, and we were eating dinner, and he said, "You know, son, my birthday is coming up. My birthday is before yours. I don't know why you were already thinking of your birthday." And he said, "I want to ask for a birthday gift." I thought, uh-oh. He's not one to ask for things, so I knew it was going to be pretty big. And he said, "I would like for you to speak on my birthday." Well, today's his birthday. I did say I'll pray about it, and got back to him in a couple weeks, and here we are. There we go. But I'm excited because today we are launching a new series called How To, where over the next couple weeks, we're going to be looking at some of the basic foundational principles of Christianity, of the Christian faith. Why? So that we as believers, we as followers, our church can be equipped with the tools that we need, not just for a Sunday morning kind of faith, but for an everyday faith. That's what we're passionate about here at Authors, is we want an everyday faith. And so over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be looking at some of those principles, and I have the privilege of sharing on one of my favorite topics, which is how to serve. How to serve. If you have your Bibles, you can go ahead and turn to Matthew chapter 25. And while you're getting there, as I was preparing for this message this week, I was reminded that before Julia and I got married and moved into our apartment together, I was living at my grandparents' house. I love my grandparents, but that was an interesting time, I'll tell you. Living with them, you start to pick up on some of, let's call them quirks, some of their weird routines. I'll give you an example. Yeah. I'll be careful with the example I give. Every single night, my grandpa would ask for oranges. So every night, my grandma would cut him oranges. I believe it. A normal human being would maybe eat one, maybe two oranges. I kid you not, every night he eats 8 oranges or more. They go through bags. She goes to Trader Joe's and she comes home with just oranges, just bags of oranges. I didn't understand it. Another thing he does, he works from bed, which if you look at any of the productivity people, they say that's the worst thing you could possibly do. I'll be honest, I judged him a little bit for it. But what reminded me of those things this week, I don't know if I lived with them for too long or what, but I think I'm becoming my grandpa, because every night Julia cut me 8 oranges and I prepared this whole message from bed. So if it's a terrible message, blame it on his routine. It's his routine. Oh man, pray for me. Matthew chapter 25, starting in verse 35, it says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go and visit you?" Basically what they're asking is, how can we serve you, Jesus? What can we do to serve you? And then Jesus replies saying this, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters, you did for me." Father God, I pray that today you will speak to us. God, I believe that you've given me a word on how to serve, how we can be your servants. And so I pray that you would give us an ear to hear all that you have. Amen. Serving is an interesting topic because on the one hand, we have culture that says it's better, or I guess success is at the top, and the more successful you are, the more people you should have serving you. Right? Society says that the greater you are, the less you serve and the more that you're served. But the Bible says things like, the greatest amongst you will be your servant. completely opposite. As a church, we need to understand that serving is not beneath any of us, right? If we can get that straight, we'll be in a good position. Nobody is above serving. In Matthew chapter 20, a little bit before the verses that we just read, it says that even Jesus, the Son of Man, came not expecting to be served, but instead to serve. Note takers, you're gonna love me today. I have 6 points. I'm making it real easy for you. I've got 6 points, almost as many oranges. 6 points. Are you ready? If you're ready, let me hear us. You say, I'm ready. There we go. Point number 1, to serve people is to serve God. To serve people is to serve God. A lot of us want to serve God, but people, ooh. Why? People are difficult. I'm a hard person to serve. I know that. I'm challenging. My dad's a hard person to serve. When we go out to a restaurant, if that steak's not prepared exactly as he wants it, he's sending it back. He's a difficult person to serve. People hurt us. People cause us harm. A lot of us want to serve God, but we don't necessarily want to serve people. And I'm here to tell you, you can't serve God without serving people. The only way to serve God is by serving his people. Because at the end of the day, what do we have to offer God? What can we actually do for him that he actually needs from us? Nothing. There's nothing we can do directly for him. And that's what this passage is referencing there. They're asking, God, what can we do for you? It doesn't seem like there's anything. To which he replies, serve others and you'll be serving me. Most Christians understand this. We can all agree on that we need to serve others. But where we start to get mixed up is, who are the others? Right? Serve others. Who are they? Now, we can agree that it's probably everyone. We need to serve everyone. But where we start to get mixed up is in our responsibility to that. You see, God has called us to serve everyone, but what if God isn't calling you individually to serve everyone? Because that's not possible. What if he's calling you as the church, the capital C church, to serve everyone, and your individual responsibility in that is to just serve the people around you? Right? Because we get sometimes Christians who say, I need to go on a missions trip in order to be able to serve. So they go on a missions trip, but then they come back and they don't even know their neighbors. You don't need to go on a missions trip to serve. If you can, if you have the ability, absolutely do it. But don't stop serving. Don't neglect the people around you in order to go and serve somewhere else. I'm talking about the people closest to you. I'm talking about your spouse, your family, your friends, sometimes the people that are most difficult to serve. Those are who we're called to serve, because if every single one of us served the people around us, we'd be serving everyone, right? When I was a kid, I loved baseball, and I played Little League when I was little, and I'll never forget this. There was a kid on my team, and he had a lot of siblings. I'm excited to have kids. I'm probably more eager to have kids right now than Julia is, so we're waiting a little bit. I want lots of kids, but this family had too many kids. We all know a family that's like, why didn't you stop after 4 or 5? I don't know. They had too many kids. I couldn't even tell you how many they had. And so because of that, the dad had to work ridiculously long hours to be able to provide for them, which I respected. And so as a way to help them out, we would oftentimes pick up this kid before practice and then drop him off afterwards. And if we had a game early the next morning, sometimes we'd go pick him up and he would spend the night. And so I'll never forget the first time he spent the night. He came to our house and we're playing video games, sitting on the couch, and I asked him if he wanted something to drink. He said, sure. So I went to the fridge and I grabbed him a water bottle, and then I grabbed this packet that was nothing to me, but he had never seen it before. It's called Crystal Light. Raspberry lemonade. And if you tried it, you know it's good. He'd never seen it before, so I poured the packet in the water and I shook it up and I gave it to him. He took a sip and his eyes lit up. You think he was drinking holy water, he thought it was so good. He said, "What is this?" After that day, every single time we picked him up, we brought him a Crystal Light and he was the happiest kid ever. Funniest thing, we were serving him, but really we were serving his parents. By picking him up, taking him to practice, giving him Crystal Light, giving him food. We were serving him, but by serving him, we were also serving his parents. It's the same thing with God. By serving God's people, we're serving God. Point number 2, serving is responding to the needs of others. Serving is responding to the needs of others. Everyone needs something. We all have needs. Yet sometimes we try to respond to people's wants instead of their needs. If you look throughout Scripture, every single miracle that Jesus performed was in response to a need. Sometimes the want aligned with the needs, absolutely, but he was responding to the need. He wasn't necessarily responding to the want. When Jesus fed the 5,000, right, we have 5,000 people with a need. They're hungry, they need food. So what did Jesus do? He responded to the need by providing them with food. When Jesus came across blind Bartimaeus, there was a need. Did he want to see? I'm sure he did. But Jesus wasn't necessarily responding to the want, he was responding to the need and gave him sight. When Jesus told the paralyzed man to get up, take your mat and walk, Jesus was responding to the need. Get this one. When Jesus was washing the disciples' feet, Peter didn't want it. Peter said, "You shall never wash my feet." And then Jesus said, "Well, hey, if you don't let me wash your feet, then you'll have nothing to do with me." So Peter was like, "Wash my feet, my ankles, my hands, everything. Wash everything because I want everything to do with you." Peter didn't even know he had a need. If Jesus had just done what Peter wanted, Peter would have had nothing to do with him. Jesus was responding to the need that Peter didn't even know that he had. Serving is not responding to someone's wants. Parents should know this better than anyone. Your kid wants a whole lot of things that aren't necessarily what's best for them. Right? If your kid wants to eat candy for breakfast, no matter how bad they want that, you would not be serving them well to give them candy for breakfast. If your toddler wants to run and play in the busy street with all the cars passing by, you wouldn't be serving them well to let them do that. If your kid wants to sleep in on a Sunday morning, like I know you probably do too, and you let that, you're not serving them well, because what's the need? You need to serve the need. There's a need and there's a response to the need. I remember this story like it was yesterday. I was 8 years old and I had just gotten McDonald's, and my mom was driving me in the Eastland Center and we saw a homeless person. I didn't think anything of it, but my mom thought this would be a great opportunity to teach me about serving and generosity. So she said, "Eyan, I want you to give your food to this homeless person." I thought, oh, why? Do I have to? Yes, Eyan, you have to. He needs it more than you do. We're gonna respond to the need. Oh, fine. So I was reluctant, but she pulled over, rolled down the window and said, "Hey, my son would like to give you his food." And I'll clean up this guy's language a little bit, but he said, "I don't want your son's food. I want his money." So my mom floored it and got out of there. She never stopped for a homeless person ever again. I don't know what he wanted money for. I could probably guess. But it wouldn't do any good. Don't let situations like that stop you from responding to people's needs. There were countless times throughout Jesus' ministry that people rejected him. Yet what did he do? He kept serving. He kept responding to the needs of others. don't stop responding to the needs. Yet other times, I find that people don't respond to the needs of others, don't respond to the wants of others, but are responding to their own wants. My wife loves attention. I'll clarify. My wife loves my attention. She doesn't want attention from any of you. She wants my attention, and she wants it undivided, and she wants a lot of it. The problem is, my giving love language is gifts. I like to buy her gifts, which who wouldn't want gifts? And she won't deny them. Yeah, they're great. But see, my way of showing her love is gifts, but her way of receiving love, her way of feeling served is attention. And so if I'm trying to serve her by what I want, I'm not actually serving her. In order to serve her, I need to serve based on her need, not my want. Not her want, not my want, her need. Serving can't be selfish. By its very nature, serving has to be selfless. So we got to get out of this mentality where it's, what do I get out of it? What do I want? And start responding to the needs of others. Point number 3, service takes sacrifice. Service takes sacrifice. Hebrews 13:16 says, do not neglect to do good and to share what you have, for such sacrifices are pleasing to God. Such sacrifices. Serving isn't convenient. And if you think it is, you're probably not serving. Don't get me wrong. Serving is fulfilling. I can't tell you how many times I've been down, I've been discouraged, I've been in a pit, and serving along with worship and lifting up a shout of praise to God. But serving of all things has pulled me out of that. So it's not that serving isn't fulfilling, yet it takes sacrifice. Going back to the passage, it says, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. If you don't have to give up anything, maybe it's not actually serving. Write this down if you're taking notes. Serving without sacrifice is superficial. Serving without sacrifice is superficial. Our hospitality team comes in every single Sunday at 7 a.m. to make sure that this campus is clean for you guys. Our production team comes in at 7 a.m. every single Sunday to make sure that our in-person experience and our online experience is ready to go. Our parking team, whether it's 45 degrees out there or 95 degrees out there, are out there helping park cars, direct traffic. It's convenient for you because they're serving you, but it's not convenient for them. It's fulfilling, but it takes sacrifice. This last Wednesday, we had our last night, which is our monthly youth hangs, and it was such an incredible night. And one of the students there, he's been around our church for a long time, ever since he was a little kid. And I was talking with one of our youth volunteers, and she was saying how she remembers when he was in elementary school because he was in her elementary school class on Sundays. And she said he was the brattiest kid she had ever met. Her words, not mine. Those are her words. She said that he would fight with the other kids, challenge the teachers, talk back to them. He was just the worst. And so then he left for a couple years, and she was like, oh, whew, a little bit of a break. And then somewhat recently he came back, and now he's in middle school, and he's a little bit more mature, and he saw this volunteer and recognized her. And instantly he felt bad. He remembered how poorly he treated her along with all the other teachers, and he actually apologized for it. There are volunteers right now with your bratty kids serving them. It takes sacrifice. Oh, but the reward, to see them grow up in kids ministry and now in youth group and one day part of our young adults ministry. It takes sacrifice, yeah, but the reward is great. But it does take sacrifice. Point number 4, to serve with the gifts God has given you is to steward his grace. To serve with the gifts God has given you is to steward his grace. The gifts that God has blessed you with are exactly that. They are gifts and they are a sign of his grace. No matter how good you are at something, no matter how much work you put in to get where you are, you need to remember that it is a gift from God and it has been so graciously given to you. 1 Peter 4:10 says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. Sometimes serving doesn't require skill. There are certain situations where you just have to respond to a need and that's it. There's no particular gift or talent or skill needed to provide someone who is thirsty with something to drink. There's no particular gift or talent or skill to provide someone who is hungry with food. I mean, if you're a good cook, they might appreciate it a little bit more, but it's not necessary. Sometimes all you have to do is respond to a need. When JT was first admitted into the hospital, Jules and I got to go and visit him and provide him with some snacks. Just responding to a need. Didn't require any skill. However, if all you ever do is respond to the need without using your gifts, you're wasting your gifts and you aren't stewarding God's grace. Sometimes it's good enough to just respond to the need, but a whole lot of other times we need to be utilizing the gifts that God has given us to serve others. When people ask, Eyan, where should I serve? I don't know where to serve. I don't know what to do. I ask them 2 things back. Where's the need and what are you good at? Where's the need and what are you good at? With the LA fires as a church, I was so proud of us because we responded quickly. There was a need and we responded to be able to help provide people with resources in need. Find a need and you'll discover where to serve. Find your gifts and you'll discover how to serve. Find a need, you'll discover where to serve. Find your gifts and you'll discover how to serve. But Eyan, I don't have any gifts. That's a lie. That's a lie from the enemy, because when the enemy gets you to believe that you don't have anything to give, what do? You end up giving nothing. When you believe that you have nothing to offer, you end up offering nothing. Romans 12:6 says, God's marvelous grace imparts to each one of us varying gifts. Each one of us. You are so gifted. And it's your responsibility as followers of Jesus to utilize these gifts to serve God's people. As the church, it's our responsibility collectively to utilize the gifts that God has given us to serve his people. That's why sometimes, being in ministry long enough, you've seen it, you get that person that comes up and says, hey, I want to join the worship team, but they can't sing. We don't not let them up here because we're mean, elitist, we only want the best up here. No, we want them, we wouldn't be serving them well to put them in a position where they're not using God's gifts. We want them to be able to serve using the gifts that God has given them. One of my wife's gifts, society, culture would call it intuition. One of the spiritual gifts that it's reflected in is called word of knowledge. Whether it's a spiritual gift, whether it's intuition, I don't know, but she's got it and it's scary. I can't tell you how many times she has come to me and said, hey, I'm feeling this. I'm kind of thinking this about this situation or this person. And sometimes as quickly as a day later, exactly what she was feeling ends up happening. So I don't know what it is, but I'm thankful she's got it. Why? Because I know that that's the kind of gift that she can use to serve this church, to serve our family, to serve God's people. What are you gifted in? It doesn't have to be a spiritual gift. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing. Something as simple as, hey, I'm pretty naturally outgoing. I'm not, maybe you are. And you can utilize that to connect with people, to serve people, to have conversations. Sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. Are you a good listener? What are you gifted in, and how can you utilize that to serve God's people? Point number 5, we are not employees of God, we are servants of God. See, I had this later, but I want to say it now. I wonder if some of us view ourselves as employees. And the problem with that is this: employees carry out a task, but servants carry out a mission. Employees are so caught up in just completing the task, but servants recognize that there is a greater reality and are focused on the mission. It's almost a year ago now, and last March, we took a trip to Dubai. Something I super appreciate. This isn't a Father's Day message or anything, but it's his birthday, so I have to show some appreciation for him. I have to. He told me, if you're gonna speak, you better, so. If you're a dad, here's something that my dad did that was really, really cool. Pretty much every year, at least once a year, he did something specific with just each of us kids. So it was just one-on-one. Sometimes it was going on a trip, even just like a day trip, San Diego, that sort of thing. Sometimes it was just grabbing ice cream. It didn't matter what it was. It was just one-on-one time. And that's something that I super appreciated. Last year, it happened to be going to Dubai, which was like, whoa. He found some super cheap plane tickets, gave me a call, and I said, why wouldn't I want to go to Dubai? So sure, let's do it. One of the most memorable things about Dubai, believe it or not, was the service. And not in a good way. I don't know if it's a cultural thing. I don't know if it's a language barrier, what it was. But they don't know Southern hospitality, I'll tell you that. Every single day, we would wake up at our hotel and we'd go downstairs to breakfast. And we'd walk up to the little host and they would grab a server and the server would walk us to our table and we'd sit down and then they would hand us a menu, and immediately after handing us the menu, they would say it just like this: what do you want? I'd want a minute to look at the menu, please. I'd say it kindly. Can I just have a minute? And I don't know if it's a cultural thing or what it was, but 60 seconds later, on the dot, they come back with this question now. Do you know what you want now? Service. One of the things that Dubai is known for is their mall. They have a massive mall. I don't care how big you're thinking right now, it's bigger. Think South Coast Plaza times 10. It was huge. We were there for 4 days in Dubai. We went to the mall every single day, and on the 4th day, we were still finding new parts of the mall. It was massive. So one of the days we decided to go to the movies. And thinking that the mall was gonna be, well, the mall was huge, the movie theater was probably gonna be huge. Turns out it wasn't. It was a tiny little theater with like 5 rows of seats. It was literally just like this section right here. It was tiny. And the rows were really close together. And if you hadn't noticed, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm kind of tall. So when I sat down, my knees were shoved into the seat in front of me. Okay? It's pretty much like every plane ride for me. Now, it's not a big deal. The movie starts, I'm kind of a little uncomfortable. So I look around, and we're the only 2 people in the theater. There's no one else even there. Great. I'll kick back and relax a little bit, get a little bit more comfortable. So I throw one of my legs over the other one, but because the rows are so close together, my foot's overhanging the seat in front of me, which again, isn't a problem because there's no one in the theater. Yet the moment I do that, an employee with a flashlight comes walking in, and he comes up to me and he says this, I kid you not, "Sir, please don't distract the others. Can you put your foot down?" The others? Who? It's just us. Service. We're not employees. We're servants. We need to respond to the need, not just by doing a task, but by truly serving. And that means recognizing the mission. We're not called to be task doers. We're called to be servants. Point number 6. I'm running out of time here. I better get through this quick. Serving is worship. Ooh, serving is worship. I think in this series, we're going to spend a whole week on how to worship. So I don't want to take too much away from that. But I want you to know that by serving others, you're serving God, but you're also worshiping God. By serving others, you are worshiping God. I love to worship. I was born a worshiper. I remember stories when I was a little toddler at our previous campus, going up on platform in between gatherings with my, I called it a doot-to-doot. I didn't know what a microphone was. It was just my doot-to-doot. And I would sing worship songs all in between gatherings. And then the gathering would start and I'd come down and I'd go right back up afterwards. I love to worship. And when I was 6 or 7 years old, I remember that we used to do worship nights. And at these worship nights, we would invite kids up to help lead worship. It was awesome. And I really wanted to be one of the kids that went up. So fortunately, I knew some people and had my people talk to their people, and I got me and my friend up there. Now, there were the regular kids, okay? They were just singing and dancing, but then there were the elite worshipers, okay? And these kids were special because they got microphones. Ooh. And so it wasn't enough for me to just go up there and worship. I wanted the microphone. So again, I had my people talk to their people, pull some strings, and I got me and my friend the microphones. Now this was important to me. Why? Because I always had a sneaking suspicion that the microphones they hand to the kids weren't really on. I didn't know how to confirm it, but this was the beginning of my plot to figure out if they were really on or not. So during rehearsal, me and my friend are up there, we're worshiping, I'm singing, think I sound good, and I'm listening, can I hear myself out there? But I can't tell. So a brilliant idea comes over me. I'm gonna wait for it to get really quiet during like a down bridge when no one's singing, and then I'm gonna yell into the microphone, and that way I'll know if it's really on or not. So sure enough, it gets nice and quiet. Just me and my friend standing there. No one singing. And then I go, ah! It was off. It wasn't even on. I couldn't believe it. I told my friend, our microphones aren't even on. I was right. And this is what he said to me. He said, if they can't hear us, why are we even up here? Ooh, that's a scary thing to say. Because that's not serving, and that certainly isn't worship. To serve is to worship. You can serve, but if it's not with the right heart, it's not glorifying God. You can do the right thing with the wrong intention, and it's not worship. Last Sunday, Kim was talking during our all-team huddle, our kids director, Kim. She was telling a story about Cain and Abel and how they both offered something up to God, but God accepted Abel's and rejected Cain's. Why? Because you can do the right thing, technically, with the wrong intention, and God will reject it. To serve properly is to worship. Yet, you cannot serve God in a way that glorifies Him without first changing your heart. We need a heart after people, a heart after God. And when our heart is right with Him, the actions follow that. When you love someone, you don't do something for them because you're obligated. The action follows the feeling. The internal feeling leads to the external expression. And we're going to talk a lot about that throughout this series because it's not enough to just keep it on the inside. Yeah, I have the heart of a servant. It's in here. God knows. He knows my heart. No, that's not enough. You need to have that internally, but express it externally.